It started small. Little changes. Nothing you could circle on a calendar. No slamming doors. No shouting. Just space. Quiet. Growing space. Lucas was 15. Not a little boy. Not quite a man. He'd always been the kind of kid who talked in car rides, who gave me running commentary on the most random things. Football scores. Weird facts about space. A dream he had where our dog could speak Spanish. But lately, he was always somewhere else. It wasn't that he didn't talk at all. He just didn't talk to me, unless I asked a direct question. And even then, his answers were efficient, minimal, like I was interrupting something important. Good. Fine. I don't know. Yeah. 4 words. That was the new language of our relationship. The shift started the same week he got a new phone. Not his first, of course. But this one was his. No old hand-me-down, no restrictions. A real phone, real access. I didn't panic. I had rules, boundaries. I talked to him about responsibility, balance, screen time. He nodded. He always nodded. And then he disappeared. Not physically. He was still in the house. Still coming to dinner, doing homework, I think, going to soccer practice. But emotionally, he was somewhere I couldn't follow. One night, I made pasta, his favorite. He came to the table late, phone in hand. "Hey," I said. "No screens at dinner, remember?" He blinked, annoyed. "I'm just finishing something." "Okay," I replied, keeping my voice calm. "But I miss eating with you. Not next to you and your phone." He put it face down, barely touching his food. I tried to ask about school, about practice, about his science project. I got one-syllable responses, paired with the same distant look I'd started to dread. And then he asked, "Can I be excused?" Half his plate untouched. I nodded, and he disappeared upstairs. I sat at the table for a while after he left. Just me, a half-eaten dinner, and the soft hum of nothing. There was no fight, no drama, just distance, and it hurt in a way I didn't know how to explain. Later that night, I passed by his room. The door was open. He was sitting on his bed, eyes locked on the screen, laughing at something. It wasn't the laugh I remembered. It was shorter, sharper, less real. I don't know, but he didn't notice me standing there, and I realized he shares more with strangers online than he does with me now. That night, I lay awake thinking, is this what growing up looks like now? A slow fade, pixel by pixel. Am I being too dramatic, or not worried enough? Because here's what no one tells you. You don't lose them all at once. You lose them in tiny moments, in nods instead of words, in locked screens, in silence where there used to be noise. And by the time you realize it's happening, you're already watching them disappear behind a glowing rectangle you can't compete with. But before we dive into this thrilling story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit like so that YouTube can show you more content like this. There's this thing that happens when you love someone deeply. You start noticing things before they do. The twitch in the corner of their mouth when something's wrong. The way their voice changes when they're pretending to be fine. The tension in their shoulders they don't know they're carrying. I'd seen it in Lucas lately, but I kept brushing it off. He's just tired. It's just school. It's just being a teenager. But one morning, as he stood in front of the bathroom mirror adjusting his hoodie, for the 3rd time, I saw it. Not vanity, discomfort. With himself, he kept pulling at the sleeves, tugging at his shirt, staring at his reflection like it wasn't doing what it was supposed to. "You look good," I said gently. He shrugged, barely looking at me, then muttered, "Wish I had shoulders like Aiden." I blinked. Aiden. From school. Never mind. He walked out before I could say anything else. But the comment stayed with me, not because of who he mentioned, but because of what it meant. He was measuring himself, and coming up short. That night, after he went to bed, I did something I hadn't done in years. I checked his public social media, not to spy, to understand. I scrolled through his Instagram, mostly memes, clips, training videos, fitness influencers, how to bulk up fast, top 10 alpha male rules, glow up challenge, week 2. Every other post was a guy flexing, posing, comparing before and after shots. And the captions, weakness is a choice. No excuses, no softness. Either they respect you, or they forget you. My stomach turned. I sat on the couch, phone still in hand, thinking, when did growing up become this exhausting performance? When did being a boy mean you had to earn your right to exist? I wasn't just losing conversations with Lucas. He was losing parts of himself. Softness, silliness, the freedom to be unsure, and replacing them with noise that didn't even sound like him. The next day, I asked him if he wanted to go out for lunch. Just the two of us. He hesitated. Then, "Can I bring my headphones?" I smiled. "No, but you can bring your appetite." We went to our usual burger place. He ordered the double, no bun, too many carbs. That hurt more than it should have. Over fries, mine, not his, I said lightly. "Your feed's looking intense these days." He looked up. "What do you mean?" "All those gym videos, motivational stuff. A little aggressive, don't you think?" He shrugged. "I don't know. Just trying to get better, I guess." "Better than what?" He didn't answer. Just picked at his lettuce and said, "Everyone's doing it." That night, I wrote in my journal, "My son is chasing someone else's version of enough, and I don't know how to tell him. He was already enough before he started running. I used to think closeness was about talking. Long, late-night conversations, questions answered, feelings named, everything out in the open. That's what I thought connection looked like. But lately, I was learning something else. Sometimes, closeness is just being there, quiet, available, unmoving, like a lighthouse, not chasing the ship, not yelling across the ocean, just steady. So I stopped trying to dig for feelings every time we were in the same room. I didn't ask questions that would make him roll his eyes. I didn't hover. I didn't remind him that I used to be cool, even though I definitely did once wear combat boots with a dress and thought it worked. I just showed up, packed lunch, drove him to school, watched from the doorway when he didn't know I was there. One day, on the way home from practice, he was especially quiet, not moody, just somewhere else. The car was filled with soft music and the smell of old gym clothes. Halfway through the drive, he said, without warning, "Do you think I'm behind?" I blinked. "Behind?" He stared out the window. "Like other guys my age, with looks, muscles, girls, everything." My hands tightened on the steering wheel, because I knew this wasn't just a passing thought. This was one of those invisible wounds, the kind they carry quietly, the kind they don't show unless they think you're safe. I didn't give him a speech. Didn't tell him he was amazing or perfect or handsome, even though all of that is true. I just said, "What makes you think there's a timeline?" He shrugged. "You just see it everywhere. People having glow-ups, six-packs, girlfriends, confidence. Like, I missed the starting gun." I pulled over, turned off the engine, and turned to him. "Lucas," I said, "you're not behind. You're growing at your own pace. That's not weakness. That's honesty. And in this world, that's rare." He didn't say anything, but his shoulders relaxed. And for the first time in weeks, he looked at me, really looked. When we got home, he didn't go straight to his room. He stayed in the kitchen, made a snack, sat at the table, scrolled his phone, but every now and then, he looked up. And once, he even said, "That song you were playing earlier, it was good, just that." But I wrote it down later, because it felt like a crack in the wall. And when I wrote in my journal that night, I didn't write about fear or loss. I wrote, "Today, he let me in. Not all the way, not for long, but I was there, and he knew it." It's a strange kind of grief, missing someone who still comes down for breakfast, who still leaves socks on the floor, who still exists in the room next to yours, but feels so far away. That week, I texted my friend Rachel. She has 2 teenage boys, both older than Lucas, one in college, one a senior in high school. I sent her a message that simply said, "Do you ever feel like your kid is here, but not really here?" She replied immediately, "Every single day." We met up for coffee that Saturday morning. It wasn't anything fancy, just 2 tired moms, in yoga pants, clinging to caffeine like a lifeline. Rachel stirred her drink and said, "He talks more to his phone than to me." I laughed, not because it was funny, but because it felt too true. "I keep thinking I did something wrong," I admitted. "Like I missed the point where he changed." Rachel shook her head. "No, he changed because he's supposed to. That's what they do. But it still sucks." I exhaled. It was the first time someone had said it so plainly. It still sucks. I told her everything. about the gym videos, the silence, the way Lucas used to tell me everything, and now I was lucky to get a grunt. I even told her about the question he asked in the car. "Do you think I'm behind?" She nodded slowly. "They all feel that way," she said. "Even the ones who pretend not to. The apps, the pressure, the highlight reels. They're drowning in it. So what do we do?" She didn't answer right away, then said, "We stay close enough to catch them when they come up for air." That sentence stayed with me the whole day, because that's what I'd been trying to do. Hover near the edge of the current, hoping he'd surface. Not to drag him out, just to remind him, I'm here. That night, I passed Lucas's room again. Door open, headphones on, blue light flickering on his face. But then, he looked up, saw me, and this time, he didn't look away. He gave a small wave. I smiled and waved back. It lasted 2 seconds, but it was enough. Later, I sat on the couch and wrote in my journal, "This isn't a rebellion. It's a recalibration. He's still here. I just have to learn how to meet him where he is now, not where he used to be. And if you are enjoying the story, help us out by subscribing to the channel and giving a like. There are things you stop expecting once they become rare. I stopped expecting hugs, stopped expecting good morning texts, stopped expecting to hear about his day without asking. But what I didn't stop doing was noticing, and that's where the truth still lived, in the things he didn't say, but still showed. One evening, I left dinner on the stove longer than usual. I'd had a long day, emails, bills, laundry, my head hurt. My heart was tired. I sat on the couch, debating whether cereal counted as a meal for adults. And then Lucas came down. He walked into the kitchen without a word, and after a few minutes, I heard the microwave beep, then the soft sound of 2 plates being set on the table. He didn't ask. He didn't announce it. He just reheated the food and waited. I looked at him, surprised. He shrugged. "You made it. We should eat it." We sat together. No phones, no background noise, just us, chewing and pausing and being. At one point, I asked, "How was school?" He answered, not just a grunt, a real answer, something about a substitute teacher and a video they watched in history class. And I nodded, letting him talk, not jumping in, not turning it into a teaching moment, just listening. After dinner, he washed his own plate, left mine by the sink. Before going upstairs, he said, "That was good, by the way." And I wanted to cry, not because of the compliment, but because he stayed. I started noticing more moments like that. The way he lingered in the kitchen just a few seconds longer than he used to. The way he laughed, really laughed, when I showed him a meme, even though he rolled his eyes first. The way he'd leave his bedroom door a little open, like maybe, just maybe, I could knock if I needed to. And the way he still looked at me, just for a second, when he was leaving the house, like he wanted to be sure I was watching. One afternoon, I left a sticky note on his desk. Nothing big, just, "You're doing great, and I'm proud of you." No filter. No performance, just facts. He didn't mention it, didn't thank me. But later, I saw it still stuck to his lamp. Not thrown away, not ignored, just there. That night, I wrote in my journal, "He still needs me. Not like before, not in the ways I'm used to, but I see it, in his pauses, in his half smiles, in the way he keeps choosing to sit at the table, even when he could eat alone." It was late, too late for serious conversations. Lucas had come downstairs to grab a snack, something he rarely did anymore. He poured a bowl of cereal like it was a secret mission, trying not to wake anyone. But I was already sitting in the kitchen, in the dark, scrolling half-heartedly on my phone. He jumped when he saw me. "Geez, Mom, you scared me." I smiled. Kitchen after dark is my time. He smirked and sat at the table. I didn't say much, just sipped my tea while he ate his cereal quietly. Then, out of nowhere, he said, "I don't think I'm interesting." The words came flat, matter of fact, like he was stating a fact about the weather. I didn't react right away. I just looked at him. "What makes you say that?" He shrugged. "I don't know. People online are so confident, funny, hot, smart. They have these personalities. They're someone." I blinked slowly, absorbing it. "And you're not someone." He laughed softly, without humor. "I'm background, like extra noise. People don't notice me. That hurt. Not because it reflected me, but because it reflected how he saw himself. And I knew that anything I said in that moment needed to be real, not a performance, not a pep talk. So I leaned in and said, "Lucas, the loudest person in the room isn't always the one being listened to." He glanced up at me. I continued, "You're thoughtful, quiet, kind. You don't have to be flashy to be seen. You don't need a viral moment to be worthy of attention." He stirred his cereal in silence. Then, "But people don't remember quiet guys." "Maybe not everyone," I said, "but the right people will. And they'll remember you for who you are, not for who you pretend to be." We didn't hug. There were no tears. But when he got up, he said, "Thanks." That he didn't feel like a lecture. I smiled. That's because it wasn't. It was just me, seeing you. The next day, I found his hoodie folded on the couch. That might seem like nothing, but it was the hoodie he wore almost every day. And for once, he'd left it somewhere that wasn't behind a closed door. A little sign that he was letting the world, me, in. Even just a bit. That night, I wrote in my journal, "He thinks he's not interesting." But I could write 100 pages on the way he thinks, the way he notices people, the way he laughs when no one's watching. I just hope, one day, he sees it too. It was a Wednesday night, nothing special. I had just finished cleaning up the kitchen, tired in that way only parents understand. Not from doing too much, but from carrying too much all day. I was halfway through deciding whether to go to bed early or scroll mindlessly for an hour when I heard it. "Hey, Mom?" I turned around. Lucas was standing in the hallway, hoodie on, one hand scratching the back of his neck, his tell when he's unsure about something. "What's up?" He hesitated, then held up the remote. "I'm watching this series. I'm on the 3rd episode, but I can fill you in if you wanna watch it with me." I didn't react big, didn't gasp or make a mom face. I just nodded and said, "Sure, sounds good." But inside, my heart did something I hadn't felt in months. It relaxed. Not because I was in control, not because I had fixed anything, but because he had reached for me. We sat on the couch, a little apart at first. He explained the characters, the plot, what I'd need to know. And when he laughed, I laughed. Not because I understood the joke, but because I understood him. Halfway through the episode, he leaned slightly against the cushion between us, not touching me, but closer, and I stayed still. I didn't try to talk. Didn't turn it into a bonding moment, didn't ruin it with a, "This reminds me of when you were little." I just watched. After it ended, he asked, "You want to see the next one?" And I said, "Only if you don't mind." He handed me the remote. "You pick this time." That sentence, so casual, but it meant the world. Because letting someone choose the next episode, that's trust. That's saying, "I want you here." That night, before bed, I passed his room. The door was open. He was lying in bed, phone in hand. When he saw me, he nodded. "Night, Mom." I smiled. "Good night, Lou." And that was it. Not dramatic, not tearful, but quiet and sacred. The kind of moment you tuck away and hold on to on the harder days. Later, in my journal, I wrote, "He came back today. Not with a grand gesture, not with a confession, but with a remote, a smile, and a little space beside him on the couch. And I understood. He doesn't need me to fix him. He just needs to know I'll stay within reach." The hardest part of motherhood, no one tells you this, is learning to stay steady in silence. You don't get applause. You don't get thank you speeches. You don't always get the happy ending tied up in a bow. But sometimes, you get a nod, a shared seat on the couch, a good night without looking up from the phone. And if you've been paying attention, you know that means everything. Lucas still doesn't talk the way he used to. He doesn't tell me every detail. He doesn't burst into a room with stories about gym class or ask me to watch him do a handstand like he did when he was 10. But he shows up. He laughs more. He eats with me again. Sometimes he even asks, "How was your day?" and waits for an answer. That's new. That's growth. And I've grown too. I don't panic at every silence. Don't fill the space with lectures. Don't read too deeply into every closed door. I've learned to listen without interrupting, to love without clinging, to stay, even when I'm not invited in, because that's what love looks like now. Not front and center, but always in the room. The other day, I watched him walk into the kitchen, grab a glass of water, say, "Hey, Mom," and lean against the counter like it was no big deal. But it was, because he looked at me, not through me. And in that tiny, ordinary moment, I felt something open again. Not like before, not like when he was little, but like this, present, real, enough. That night, I wrote in my journal one last time. He's still becoming, and so am I. But the space between us, the space I once feared meant distance, has become something else entirely. Room for him to grow, for me to trust, for us to change and still stay close. He didn't disappear. He just became quieter, and I learned how to listen anyway. If you enjoyed the story, give it a like and subscribe to the channel to support us. We'd also love it if you left a comment telling us which city you're listening from and whether you identified with this mother in any way. Have you ever gone through something similar to this story? If you can, share it with another mother who might be needing this dose of affection and hope. You are very important to us, and we thank you for being part of this community of reflection and love. Thank you so much, and see you next time.